Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 in the Scaling Telecom Revenue Series. In episode 1, we talked about how telecom is not just a product, it's a system. Today, we'll go one level deeper. If telecom's a system, then discovery is how you understand what system needs to be designed, what needs to be supported, what needs to be built, and why. In today's market, this matters more than ever. Kaseya's 2026 State of the MSP report states that customer acquisition is the top business issue for MSPs. 71% identified that as a major challenge. It also revealed that MSPs are under pressure to prove value faster, improve profitability, improve customer experience, and automate more of their operations. And this is why discovery matters. If you don't capture the right information up front, everything gets harder. Design, quote, deployment, support, invoices, taxes, even getting paid. So in today's episode, Dan and Michael from TeleDynamics and Mark from Datagate will discuss discovery and how telecom providers and resellers can capture the right information upfront in a repeatable, practical way. So Dan, in episode 1, you mentioned something that was really the trigger of focusing on this idea of discovery. You talked about this site survey. So tell us the story behind that site survey. Why did it come up, and why do you think it still matters?
Yeah, the site survey came up quite a while back. It was during the digital phase of telephony, and some dealers just kind of kept forgetting to ask specific questions that would help them build their digital system back then, when you needed to know all the specifics so you could put the right cards into the system. And we kind of just kept on building on that system on telephony, and even through the hybrid phase and into the VoIP phase, it still was something important to think about. And especially today with VoIP, most people don't think about paging and faxing and door access and controls. They just start thinking about, well, how many phones do I need? But there's a lot more that goes into it. So absolutely, I don't think of it as bringing back an old form. I think of it as bringing back discipline into building a system. And so I was asked to help one of our customers through that discovery process when they were struggling to understand what they needed to capture. So that made me think about the site survey forms that we used to have back then. And when we built that out, we kind of came up with an Excel version for them to help them through that. And so when you're thinking about a site survey, it's more than just the phones. It's recognizing you're installing trunks, you're installing phones, you're programming the PBX, deploying handsets and pagings. There's more to it than just throwing the phones on site and walking away. So that's where a lot of problems start if discovery is not one of the first steps. So you have to look at auto attendant flows, and not just the way the customer expects them, but what happens when the customer is away from the phone, or if one of the ring groups changes over and it goes to a different branch. Obviously, safety and security are some of the main ones that get missed. And with today's environment with hybrid workforce, we can't stress safety and security enough. Video deployments, they usually underperform because the room, the networking, and cabling was not properly understood. So that's something to consider with these deployments. Remote access usually gets bolted on instead of designed first. And so remote access and the hybrid access are something that you need to take into consideration. And users usually get frustrated with network and truck rolls that are costing them money and credibility later on when they keep having to come back because the initial site survey wasn't done. So the point of the discovery process, you need to understand how the customer is actually working today and how the solution can make that work better and more efficient. So we need to know, how do they communicate? How does telephony or UC or video, how does that need support their business process? How does that business use video? When do they use video? Who works remotely? Why? Some of the keys and questions that revolve around are, what is the customer doing today? What does not work well today? And how can that be made better? So the important word there is better. How can we make that better? So a good discovery process should help the customer provide design that something solution-wise makes the customer's process better, and not just something that technically functions.
Okay, so in that process, obviously, the site survey kind of is a bit of a practical tool, and you mentioned it having a lot of resonance in previous years, decades maybe. But what do you think a modern site survey, up-to-date site survey, really needs to capture, Dan?
Great question. There's a few major categories. So first, you need to know the locations and users. That's usually the simple one. You know, how many phones, how many people. Um, but we need to know: is it a one site, multiple site? Are there remote users, executives working from home, staff that's traveling between locations? All those things affect dial patterns and plans, inbound and outbound routes, extension based styling, forwarding, mobile device integration. And then that also goes with the laptop and video conferencing integration. So, of course, security. I'm hopefully hitting home on security. That's something that is usually an afterthought, but that usually afterthought needs to be a always first thought. Second, are call flows. You need to understand who's answering calls, what happens when they aren't answered, if the users are away, how calls move between departments, branches, or sites, what happens after hours with those calls, and then whether there's queues, agents, auto attendants, special routing needs to those integrated mobile devices. So that's kind of the second piece to understand. And then third, really the network. You need to understand voice and video depend on that underlying network. So the discovery process needs to include your Wi-Fi integration and infrastructure, private versus public access, VLAN. Sometimes are a part of that, depending on how many users are involved. Acceptable application traffic, cabling, backup circuits, and failover. Whether technologies like SD-WAN should be considered. So the network is a larger part of it today than it ever was decades ago. And then there's the side of the business side. Who gets sold what? You know, what items are they quoting? What gets changed later? What has to be changed immediately? What part of that is supported? Is it supported through your manufacturer, through your distribution partners like TeleDynamics? What needs to be billed? What's an ongoing revenue? And that's really where Mark and Datagate come in on the billing side. So, for example, if a customer has 3 locations, remote managers, shared reception and coverage, they have after hours routing. That's not just a simple phone cut. You've got to have all that pre-built, and you have to know the business workflow. You've got to spend some time with the users to understand that so it can be built out right. And the hybrid workspace has changed the network and security landscape immensely. So discovery is where you find that before it becomes a deployment problem.
Awesome. And so, Michael, to bring you in on this conversation, this applies much beyond just voice. When you think about video rooms, signage, displays, or collaboration spaces, what does a good discovery process need to capture?
Yes, video is a great example because a customer may think they just need a screen or a camera, but the room matters. What's room used for? How many people are going to be attending that conference in the room? What kind of meetings happen here? Is it a boardroom, a training room, a huddle room, a lobby, a retail environment, or a space for digital signage? You need to understand the physical environment. What is the lighting like? What is the network like? Is cabling in place? Are there microphones, speakers, displays, mounts, control requirements, or accessibility considerations? If you just skip that discovery, the solution may technically work, but the experience may disappoint the customer. Maybe the audio is poor. Maybe the camera angle is wrong. Maybe the display is not appropriate for the room. Maybe the network cannot support the experience. That's why discovery matters for video and collaboration, just as it matters for voice. You're not just selling equipment, you're designing the experience, and you're selling a good experience. Not just, is this going to be a Teams room or a Zoom room? All of those aspects are going to lead to how well that the end user can experience it. And one of the things that Datagate can do is that if a customer wants to do a managed room, that Datagate can help provide that monthly recurring revenue that the integrator can manage that room for that customer.
Awesome. So, Mark, to bring you in on this conversation, you'd clearly argue that discovery also implicates the provider's financial back office systems, correct? And
Absolutely.
if so, how does discovery affect that billing, that customer experience, and the ability of the provider just to scale these solutions?
Yes, absolutely. Well, discovery is where the back office starts, really. If you're setting up a new customer, setting up a quote, the site survey should identify users, devices, DIDs, trunks, licenses, video services, installation, labor, support plans, usage-based services, IoT devices, AI agents, everything that will eventually need to go into your quote, your contract, your agreement, your invoice. It's very important to have standardized coding so that there's no ambiguity about what exactly is being provided, so that everyone in your business in the back office is going to know exactly what it is with the minimal amount of effort. Very importantly, as Daniel was also stating, and you must record where these items are located, as in what building. It can affect the telecom taxes and surcharges. So location is very important for telecom billing. Your customer might have two buildings down the opposite ends of the road from each other, but they might be in different tax jurisdictions, and it's very important to have that noted. Which building are they in? And so, as they say in real estate, location, very, very important. Have a systemized approach to your discovery, exactly as Dan and Michael were saying. A survey checklist, so you don't forget to ask important questions. Don't forget to ask about tax exemptions, especially if your customer is part of a government agency, government department of any kind, whether it be state, federal, local government. If they are a school, university, police, fire department, medical facility, charitable organization, sports organization, church, or religious organization, food bank, non-profit, etc. They very well might have tax exemptions, both at the sales tax level and also at the telecom tax level. So ask the questions, and the exemptions might apply to some branches, maybe not to the whole company. And if they do have exemptions, then ask for certificates or forms. Seek advice from your tax advisor if you're new to the subject. I'm not a tax advisor, but I'm just flagging that this is, it's an important thing about getting it right for your customers. Mm-hmm. So telecom is dynamic. Things change, extensions get added or moved, people move around, new features, AI agents, it's happening a lot now, are being added. Work gets triggered in the PSA system, or however you're managing your tech team. Orders change. Ask in advance whether the business is planning any kind of organizational changes in the short term or medium term. This is all good information that you may be able to pick up to help your business stay in sync with your customers. There'll always be changes to your communication systems. It's nice to know about it in advance. And this is important. The invoice is part of the customer's experience with your business. If the bill is late, if it's confusing, if it misses detail, misses tax exemptions, or is wrong in any way, that customer experience will reflect on your business. And of course, the monthly billing might well be your most regular form of communication, with your customer. So it has a big effect on how they perceive your business. So, and if your financial systems are not designed for all of this, you'll end up with manual work, delays, errors, customer disputes, late payments, finance teams spending more time fixing problems instead of helping the business grow. So telecom billing is a very specialized type of billing, and it requires specialized systems to do it properly. And good discovery supports good billing. It helps customers see and appreciate exactly what they are paying for, and it helps support teams understand what a customer has deployed. So just like the technical side, if the financial back office systems are not designed properly to record, report, and correctly process all this information, scaling your business just makes things worse, not better. Thank you.
So this is really where, as you guys are talking about, the telecom provider becomes more than just an order taker. This is where they become an advisor, a trusted advisor, right? Dan, maybe you've got a perspective on that.
Yeah, absolutely. The telecom provider is a trusted advisor, and even upstream into your distribution partners. That's part of being a trusted advisor along the way for your channel. And I think Datagate comes the same way. Discovery is part of the process of building trust, and you're not just asking how many phones do you need, or how many trunks are we billing. You're asking, how does your business communicate, and how does that work well today? How does it not work well today? How can we make that better if it's not working well? And that changes the conversation. So let me give you an example. In a warehouse, if Wi-Fi may support handheld scanners and forklift mounted devices, but for safety, you may still use wired phones, VoIP phones in fixed locations, or maybe a decked wireless infrastructure, something like that. But if someone gets hurt, they shouldn't be searching for a mobile phone or hoping that wireless signal is strong enough. They need to rely on a reliable way to call for help immediately. And that's the kind of thing that good discovery processes can capture. They can test the Wi-Fi signal strength. They can test for all the different things in an emergency situation and mobility needs, how close you are to call devices, buttons, phones, whatever. So that kind of thing is a good discovery process. And some other questions is there a health and safety requirement? I know there's some FCC laws that came in that mandated that stairwells needed to have ability to receive pages for fire and things like that. So notifications. And so you need to look at stairwells and elevators and things like that. Are there safety requirements or health requirements that are there on location? Are there alarms, motion detectors, cameras, offsite monitoring? So how does all of that fit into your system, and how does it get supported? And when you step back and you capture all this information up front, you prevent rework, reduce budget creep, and you increase that customer confidence. And so that's part of why we kind of came up with that site survey, just reminding those integrators, ask those questions up front. It helps us build out those quotes for hardware more effectively and efficiently. And then those deployments for the installers go smoother. The customers are happier. Information that's needed back and forth is cleaner. Billing is captured earlier, and then it's cleaner moving forward. And so that really helps the whole ecosystem with integrator, distributor, and then billing with Datagate.
So somebody could really use your site survey document as part of the discovery process. So it's not just an engineering design tool, it's a sales tool, it's a thinking tool. Like, how do I think about my customers? How do I think about what I'm trying to do? How broad is my perspective? And also, how am I going to support all of that stuff after I've delivered it? Right, Dan? And maybe I can get a comment from you and then Mark.
Yes, absolutely. The site survey, that discovery process, it gives sales and pre-sales a better starting point. It's going to help them ask better questions, uncover more needs, create more complete proposal. And the more complete proposal, the stickier the customer, obviously. So you're not just asking how many phones do you need, you're helping the customer understand how do you communicate? What kind of communications are you using? Video, network, safety, security, support, billing, they all fit together with those questions. And that's how you move from a product seller to a trusted advisor. Then they can use that site survey as a starting point, integrate it into their own discovery process, keep improving it as they learn new details. So networking, security, keep adding to that depending on what all the MSP is offering. And when you expand the conversation to business needs, you expand the opportunity and value. You build momentum, confidence, and your inside sales team, fulfillment team, and ultimately the customer relationship.
Okay, awesome. And Mark, what's your perspective? And after Mark, I'd like to hear your perspective too, Michael.
Well, when the telecom providers connect that discovery process into their financial infrastructure, they create opportunities for better automation, better data, better tax and regulatory compliance, better customer records, and better customer experience all around. And that's where platforms like Datagate matter. Datagate orchestrates billing and financial data. We connect into the telecom providers' existing solutions, and such as their PSA systems, their tax engine, accounting systems, quoting tools, payment gateways. So the back office system is fully integrated, sharing data and the same customer experience, the same engineering teams are trying to create. So it's all working together in harmony. And when it works well, customer orders and changes are all billed correctly. Finance teams spend less time fixing errors. Invoices go out on time. Customers get the details and information they need. Payments are more predictable, and that makes the overall business more efficient, profitable, and easier to scale.
Thanks, Mark. And so Michael kind of sprang that one on you at the last minute.
No
here,
problem.
But very curious to hear how you, from your unique perspective, would think about the whole bigger topic of discovery and how it fits in with telco providers, MSPs, and the industry.
Absolutely. I mean, coming from someone who did the physical installation, sold those digital systems for on-premise phone systems, it was, you're really kind of on your own. You didn't really connect to the network except for, hey, one point on the network. Now everything's combined. All of your voice and video, security, access controls, everything's on the network, and being able to do a process of discoveries, asking all these questions up front is everything we've touched on, making a cleaner install, a more accurate proposal for sales. I mean, no customer wants to come back and say, oh yeah, I need another, 20% added to this because we forgot to do a survey or ask the right questions during the sales process. We don't want to rely on what it comes down to after the sales has been sold, and now it's just the engineering to answer these questions of how to make it work and find out, yeah, we've got to do a bunch of add-ons to make the process work. So everybody wants to have all this information up front, no surprises, and that's what discovery is going to do. It's not just how to make it work, but it's how to accomplish the entire sales process, the install process, and the user experience on the back end to be the best experience they possibly can have on there. So this is great. All the stuff that's going over, and as Dan said, this isn't an old form. This is just really updating into the current, the way the process works now with voice and video, all part of an integrated net.
Awesome. And so I guess really you guys are answering, why does it work that way? Well, you have to have a reason. Why did we deploy this? Why did we build this? Why did we invoice this? It's all based on the whole discovery process. So if in the first podcast we talked about telecom being a system, and today we talk about discovery and that being how you understand the system, then it really is all about how do you help providers ask questions, design better solutions, quote more accurately, deploy more smoothly, all of those things. And so the goal isn't like use this form because it's just paperwork. It's about repeatability and asking better questions, being structured, identifying customer needs that they might not have even thought about, and making sure that what you deploy is done on purpose and there's a lot of intentionality about it. So everything that flows from good discovery goes right down into even cash flow, making that flow more predictably. So what we're doing is through this discussion, I think, guys, we've really talked about shaping an updated site survey framework that service providers and telecom providers can use as a practical checklist for modern discovery, and that's just doing it right. So I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. In the next episode, what I'd like to do is take this discovery process and go a bit deeper and talk about how to design voice and video around how the customer actually works and what actually gets done and deployed. So I'm looking forward to that discussion with everybody on the panel here today. And thanks, Dan and Michael and Mark. Looking forward to this next episode. And if any of you listening have some interest in follow-up, please reach out to TeleDynamics or Datagate directly, and their contact information is going to be shown following the close of this podcast. So thanks very much, everybody. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.